大家好啊！今日我哋就玩個比較恐怖啲嘅文字冒險遊戲，我覺得啦。好，咁我哋就依家開始玩下啦。好。呢款遊戲呢係對 H.P. 洛夫克拉夫特同名作品嘅互動遊戲式復刻，並且呢着重描繪原作裏邊表述嘅情節同氛圍。你呢唔會遇到困難選擇、快速反應事件或者物品管理等元素。喺遊戲入面呢，你將只可以跟隨住劇情穿越每個場景。
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
我係喺個極度嘅精神壓力下寫低呢啲文字嘅，因為到咗今晚，我會不復存在。呢個遊戲入面呢，我將會遇到一系列互動元素，其中一部分呢會容許我繼續自己嘅旅程，其他呢就會揭示原作短篇故事、歷史背景或者作者本身嘅有趣細節。遊戲裏邊存在住一部分隱藏知識條目，如果想要揾到所有秘密呢，咁就一定要聚精會神揾股神之兆。哇，好點玩啊？好驚。
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
我身無分文，跟住維持我嘅毒品呢都用晒啦，我冇辦法忍受嘅，我將會從呢個窗度跳落去。唔好啦，喂！
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate.
OK， 唔好因為我依賴嗎啡呢，我就認為我意識薄弱啊。
When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
當你讀完我呢幾頁寫低嘅文字之後呢，即使冇辦法完全理解，你都會估到點解我一定要唔記得，甚至必死無疑啊！左望望右望望先啦。問號，嗎啡係最早出現喺19世紀初喺美國內戰以及第一次世界大戰期間被廣泛利用嚟緩解傷患嘅痛楚。
直到1914年呢，各國先至對市面上嘅嗎啡採取咗禁制令。咁喺皮下注射嘅針1854年面世之後呢，亦都隨之越嚟越出名啦。然之後呢個嘢嘅發明者最初將佢叫做麥菲，呢個名係嚟自希臘神話裏邊嘅夢神麥菲斯。喺呢個遊戲出版之前，嗎啡成癮亦都係當時被稱為士兵病嘅現象，席捲全美。
OK。
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
喺太平洋嘅海面度，亞運嘅船呢，不幸成為德國海狼嘅獵物。左望望右望望先，好似冇嘢讀啊。好，讀。
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation.
當時大戰啱啱先開始，德國佬嘅海面艦隊呢冇完全墮落成存在艦隊。
So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
我哋呢就俾佢哋攻擊咗，然之後我哋船員呢就成為戰俘。係匈奴係一群統治咗歐洲嘅中亞游牧民族。
佢哋喺公元5世紀嗰陣時入侵咗羅馬帝國。匈奴人呢係一個殘暴兇狠嘅戰士，咁呢就中意偷嘢啊，然之後中意用弓成武器。喺第一次世界大戰期間，英國俾德國冠上匈奴佬嘅名，呢個外號啊係指諷刺德意志國軍隊嘅殘暴。但係呢個稱號其實最早係嚟自於德王威廉二世喺1900年7月27號面對嘅乜嘢，功夫大清嘅德國戰利嘅演講。 好，不過呢，就唔留俘虜嘅說法明顯咧就違反咗1899年嘅法規。
好，繼續。
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone, in a small boat, with water and provisions for a good length of time.
我哋嘅看守紀律非常散漫，以至於呢，我哋被俘5日之後啊，我就設法獨自一人去逃走。OK， 非常好。
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings.
OK， 對周圍一無所知。
Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
OK，
Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
喺我唔知道嘅緯度嗰度有睇唔到嘅島嶼或者海岸線。好，繼續。
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
OK， 總之喺度漂流，浮緊，咁就繼續漂噶咯喎。
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
完全冇嘢，令到我開始絕望啦。
The change happened whilst I slept.
喺我沉睡嗰陣時，有啲嘢變咗，
Its details I shall never know,
有啲嘢我永遠咧都唔知道啊。
for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
雖然我瞓得唔安穩，而且不斷咁發夢，但我冇中途醒過嚟。
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see.
我陷入咗一個沼澤度，放眼一睇呢，都係單調乏味起伏嘅泥沼。
And in which my boat lay grounded some distance away.
我個船呢，就喺遠處。
Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished.
我感到恐懼，而唔係驚訝。
For there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear.
呢種安靜同單調嘅景觀，令到我好恐懼。
The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
變晒黑色。嚟啊，周圍睇啊，冷靜。好，冇嘢睇。
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
當我去到船旁邊呢，我就淨係得一個理論啊，可以解釋到我嘅處境。
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
我對深處隱藏咗8萬年嘅區域暴露咗出嚟。
So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean. straining my ears as I might.
完全聽唔到海水湧動嘅聲音。
Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
完全冇嘢。OK。望望先。
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
我喺度沉思咗一陣。
As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time.
好，可以行啦。
That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
我喺度揾一個獲救嘅機會。
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease.
我哋已經乾到可以輕鬆行路啦。
The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
好，準備行啦。等陣啊，唔好行住，周圍望。好，望完啦，行。
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
我朝住西方走咗一日，朝住西方走。哇！鯨魚？哇！蜘蛛腳？唔係蟹？
That night I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
我都喺度不斷咁行，但係好似遠方嘅存在完全冇好大嘅變化，即係點行都係咁樣。做咩？
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance.
我終於到咗山腳啊！喺呢個角度度呢，原本嘅短丘啊，竟然係咁高聳嘅山峰。
An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface.
一道峽谷隔開咗周圍嘅平地。
Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill.
我好攰。
I know not why my dreams were so wild that night. But ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain,
不過喺即將顯現全部身形嘅突月喺平原升起之前，
I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more.
我渾身冷汗，然之後決定唔可以再瞓覺啦。
Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again.
我唔可以再發啱啱嗰個夢啦。
And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day.
OK。
Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy.
如果冇朝早嗰啲太陽嘅話呢，我唔會咁攰嘅。
Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset.
繼續爬山。
Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
繼續爬山。點爬山？拎嘢。
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me.
實在太恐怖。
But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon.
根本係太過輕描淡寫，咁真係仲有更加恐怖。
Whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine.
完全冇辦法照到個黑暗。
I felt myself on the edge of the world,
我走到去地平線嘅邊緣，
peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost,
我諗起咗失樂園嘅其中一個段落，
and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness.
黑暗國度度艱辛跋涉嘅撒旦。
As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
唔係我想象中咁陡峭嘅呢度。